Hi, this is Sive Morten with the daily update on EuroFX. I post my exclusive market overviews with the key political and economical events, charts, and important levels on the ForexPeaceArmy.com forums weekly. This short video is a response to rapidly changing situation on the currency markets and should help you to stay on top of the game and be profitable. I suggest you to visit ForexPeaceArmy.com forum and read my analysis for the week before watching this daily video.
Welcome everybody. Today it's time to update our view on the Bitcoin market because the target that we have specified a couple of weeks ago finally has been reached, and actually here are lots of stuff that we need to talk about. So even on higher time frames, starting from the monthly chart, we're coming to a very important moment. With a sell-off recently in May, as you can see, market hits the major fib level 41.63. So it's just a few cents stands till this level, and potentially we have here the background for a Judd Napoli brand by the buy trade, although it might be formed not in May but a bit later in June, for instance, because formally we do not have the close below the 3x3. So we have thrust up, deep retracement right to the major fib support, but that retracement by the Judd Napoli terms has to happen with the close below this green line. The market currently hasn't closed below it. It means that this level also could be tested and challenging for a few times. Market could flirt around it for maybe 1-2 months. It is possible. So the final test it might happen in June, for instance. If this will happen in June and market close below the 3x3 moving average, we will get the pure brand by the buy trade. So it means that here we should get the pullback. Usually the target of the brand bar is 618 pullback on a whole downward action, which approximately will be around 50-55 area. This is the first moment. Second moment, guys, at the same time, take a look at this price action. These three candles here that we have thrusting up, some kind of the doji with the long shadows, and collapse. This is monthly evening start. It usually works like the bearish engulfing, and in most cases, at least from the probability point of view, it leads to compounded retracement when the pattern itself becomes the first part of the retracement after the pullback that, by the way, perfectly fits to our suggestion of the brand bottom, right? And then we should get some more extension to the downside. So this should be some kind of the ABCD pattern. What the depth of the retracement will be is difficult to say, but at the first approximation, maybe the 35 area, this might be tested as 50% of the whole thrusting action. So these two moments that we should keep an eye on in the medium-term perspective on Bitcoin, that might be formed here. In the nearest term, the most interesting stuff for us, the most interesting thing is the response of the market to the major support area. So because market here stands near support, and as we said, that might be a very good chance to buy Bitcoin for the pullback. If even we will not get directly above the previous top and reestablish the upward trend, but at least some pullback here might happen. On the weekly chart, we discussed already also approximately within a couple of weeks the double repo pattern. Double repo pattern also suggests deep retracement, at least the 50% of the thrust. But on the way of the price stands the confidence support, the same area 42.50, 43.80, and also could trigger the pullback. That's the reason why we said we could consider taking the long position around this area. At the same time, the important thing that we already mentioned in the previous update is that cryptocurrencies for the first time stands in a new environment, with the environment of the possible interest rates rising from the central banks, because market stands at the eve of the global economy recovery stage that suggests rising of the inflationary pressure and suggests changing and tightening of the policy. In the previous years, cryptocurrencies was not standing in such environment, and currently nobody could tell what will happen. As the first approximation of the possible market behavior in the period of the tightening cycle, I would say that cryptocurrencies has failed the test. So initially, it's a lot of wide opinion that cryptocurrency is a great protection against inflation. It will be just super asset when inflation will rise, interest rates will rise. But currently, it seems that it will not be so, because once consumer price index has been released, all cryptocurrencies has collapsed. So once on the horizon the new fears of the inflation repressive appears, cryptocurrencies has dropped. So it means that they will not behave in the same manner as the interest rate in the bonds or something of that sort to protect the against inflation. They probably will behave in the same manner as simple assets, common assets such as stocks, something of that sort. So, and that in general, in the longer term perspective, suggests and confirms our view that downside action should be stronger and deeper, just because the interest rates rising stands not too far from the current situation. Somewhere by the end of the year or in the second half of the 2022. So in this period, the policy should become more aggressive among the central banks. So as you can see, overall situation stands not very simple. That's what about the long-term situation. In the shorter term, we need to consider current price behavior here and watch for possible bullish patterns that might be formed around it. That could tell us when to take the position, where to place the stop. Some traders take the position just because market hits the strong support. Well, since market stands at oversold, as on the weekly chart, as on the daily chart, stands near the strong confidence support, maybe it also makes sense. So some traders who have a lot of money on the account and could place extended stop order, letting market to breathe, it makes sense. So if you have limited account value, this will be more reasonable trying to get the pattern first, because in this case you will be able to place significantly tighter stop. On the daily chart, you can see that the sell-off was rather aggressive with this downward direction, and the market wasn't able even to show the ABCD type of action. It just has shown the straight downward drop here, direct downside action without any retracement here, as we suggested. So it is a bit more aggressive compared to what we expected, but at the same time, that was the minor tactical details that actually impacts, not have any impact on the overall scenario that we are discussing. So our ABCD downside action retracement is done. Market hits 41, 42 area, as you can see. And now we need to keep an eye on the response. What will happen around it? As I said, if you would like to, you could try and to take position with the placing stop somewhere below the weekly area. Others could think about the taking position and only when we will get some patterns on the intraday charts. Currently, what we have actually on the 4-hour time frame chart, I do not see something special. Probably we will get some divergence here a bit later, but not yet, because as you can see, MACD trend stands bearish. But in potential it might be. But on the hourly charts, take a look what we have. We have the butterfly. It's a bit not as good as it should be, but in general, as you can see, downside extension stands very close to the final target. And this market shows some response here. Very often, butterflies, especially when the market is forming some extended pattern, very often it might become the part of the head and shoulders. So that's two most probable patterns that might be formed here. Is the butterfly, as we already have, and potential head and shoulders. It means that market should return back to the 50, 51 area, and then it might show the pullback to the 46, 47 as to form the right arm. That will be the point for a potential entry based on this pattern. But also you could use the butterfly just to place stop somewhere below this area. So that's actually what we have on the Bitcoin, so let's keep watching, and don't forget what we said about the longer term perspective from the cryptocurrency.